Great question. Do I snell or not to snell? Well, how many people in here know how to tie a snell? How many people don't know how to tie a snell? Well, here's the reason for the snell, and I'm going to show you guys this. And the great part is I got some braid, and I've got a weight here. And the reason for the snell, because everybody's heard when you start flipping, you need to learn how to tie a snell. Well, the new jack flipping hook has actually taken that and gotten away from having to tie a snell every single time. Let's see how sharp these scissors are. Ooh, super sharp scissors there, guys. Okay. Good job. Actually, while I'm doing this, I'm going to talk about the rig itself. So usually what I don't have with me is a bobber stop or a punch stop, something to peg the weight so that when you flip it in there, the weight doesn't go down and leave the bait up top. But I will tell you this, is if you are flipping and you're not punching, you do not want to use a bobber stop or peg the weight. It's something, a guy by the name of Denny Brower, I don't know if any of you guys ever heard of him. Like when I first year on tour, the guy, like my first tournament, the guy actually says, come to dinner with me. And I'm just like, Denny Brower's asking, go to dinner. So I'm up there and we're sitting at dinner and I'm just, so dude, when you win this tournament and using this flipping stick and this and that and 20 and this and you flood a tube and blah, 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 and he's just sitting there. I mean, you gotta remember, Denny's from Missouri, so he's a little slower than everybody else. I'm from California, I'm wired, like I've had 5 Red Bulls. And at the end of dinner, he never answered any of my questions. He goes, I'm gonna give you one tip. And of course, Denny Brower gives a tip, he goes, if you don't have to peg it, don't peg it because it will increase your bite. So when you're regular flipping, this is just a little tip outside of matted vegetation, don't peg it. So, but when I'm punching, I peg it, put the weight on, and with most straight shank hooks, you tie a snell. And no, I'm not gonna show you guys how the snell I tie because everybody gets me, dude, how do you tie that snell? It's actually a pretty easy snell. It's about 4, 5, 6, up to you, 7 half hitches over the shank of the hook. And the ruling on how many half hitches is when you're fishing for 4-pounders, you do 4. You want fishing for 5-pounders, you do 5. 6-pounders, you do 6. I mean, I've had times where I've tied it 10 times because I'm trying to catch 10-pounders. Does it always work? Most likely not, but still, just something in my head. So I usually tie 4 to 12 half hitches, depending on the mood that I'm in. And what it'll do now that I've tied this snell is, oh, scissors aren't so sharp. I was gonna steal them if they were. Can I get out of Canada? Monroe, pro bass anglers in prison in Canada for stealing scissors. So you go to set the hook with a straight shank hook and it's snelled, and watch what happens. That hook swings upwards every single time you go to set it. It's gonna swing upwards. And when it swings upwards, that fish is going to blow that bait out. Instead of it coming straight out of his mouth, it's gonna swing upwards every single time. And that upwards is gonna hook him in the roof of the mouth or in the bottom of the jaw. Pass that around. So the question is, to snell or not to snell? Definitely. But with the new jack flipping hook, I'm gonna have it pass this around right behind it, you don't have to snell. Now, when we're talking about heavy matted vegetation and fishing a frog, color does not matter except to the angler. I use contrasting colors for when I'm fishing certain types of vegetation. So if I'm fishing this, I'm not gonna throw a green frog or a brown frog because it blends in. I'm gonna throw a white frog or I'm gonna throw a black frog. Then you get to the hydrilla it's a, oh, I thought you had a question. It's a green mat on top. I'm not gonna use a green frog because I relate a lot of my strikes to visually looking at that frog. When that fish blows up on that frog, if I don't see color, that's when I know to set the hook. And that's very, very key, is when to set the hook. If I don't see color, most likely he's gotten it. Most of the time, the fish has the bait before the explosion that you see when he's eating almost any topwater bait, because he's coming up behind it and he's inhaling the bait, and then you see the splash of him coming up. Now, there are those times where they do the porpoise and land on top of it, but I learned this at a very, very young age about how bass eat topwaters growing up in a lot of the clear water lakes. I was actually fishing a redman tournament. Yes, I'm old enough to fish redman tournaments. I'm 41 years old. I'm the middle-aged guy on tour now. You know, you got the JVDs and the Josh Bertrands, the young super hot sticks, but I am the middle-aged guy. I was actually throwing a frog in a tournament, and I had a pretty decent bag that day. And I come up to this dock, and this is also my lesson of learning on how to fish heavier braided line. I come up to this dock, I skip my frog next to the dock, I start walking it next to the dock, and it gets to the edge of the dock, and I see the shadow come out from underneath it. So I slow down, I twitch it. He comes up behind it, but the fish is still sitting 2 feet underneath the frog. So I'm like, oh, he's not gonna get it. So I walk it real quick. Fish comes up behind it even more. He comes up about a foot underneath the water. I'm like, oh, he's about to get it. He never, ever blows up on the frog. The fish is, I swear to you, a foot underneath the water. It flares its gills, and I watch the frog go right to the back of his throat.
Welcome to Bass University TV, an online video training course where you'll learn champion bass fishing techniques from pro anglers Pete Glusek, Mike Iaconelli, and their talented special guests. From on the water to in the classroom, you'll learn sound techniques and strong fundamental bass fishing skills. Watch hours of video content on multiple topics at your own pace for a low monthly fee. Cancel at any time. Information is power in the sport of fishing, so learn from the very best. Subscribe to Bass University TV today.